What's up, everybody? TJ and Carrie here with Muscle Growth Mindset. We're going to talk today about vitamin D. And the reason we're talking about vitamin D is, there's tons of vitamins out there, but vitamin D is not a vitamin it's not a typical vitamin.
Right.
So what's different about vitamin D?
Vitamin D is, vitamins are boring, right? I figure you eat whole, real food, you don't have to worry about it too much. Vitamin D is different. It is, it's more like a pre-steroid hormone. If you look at the molecular shape, so cholesterol is, if you've seen cholesterol, if you've seen testosterone, they're almost the exact same. Estrogen, cortisol, they look very similar. Well, vitamin D is right there. It looks almost exactly like other steroid hormones in your body.
Yeah, so if you see them drawn out, like the shape of them as a molecule, they're real similar to each other.
And they're pretty unique looking molecules. Rings attach to each other in a certain way.
Right.
Unlike a lot of other molecules, they're pretty distinct. And if you saw it, you would recognize, hey, that looks very similar. And it has similar actions. So it's almost misclassified as a vitamin.
Right. Interesting. So with it being that way, what makes it different? How does it being more of a precursor, steroid precursor, what does that mean? What makes that different than a regular vitamin?
Well, so it's the biochemistry where there's a lot of vagueness in there. It's like, at the end of most articles, it's more research is needed. But with vitamin D, what we know for sure is that it facilitates the absorption of calcium and phosphorus, which are vital nutrients. You have to have these. More often when someone has a deficiency in those, it's not because of a lack of nutrients, it's a lack of absorption.
Right.
It's low vitamin D.
Yeah, so a lot of times there's a correlation with calcium deficiencies and vitamin D. If you have one, you may have the other.
Yes, so like people with osteoporosis, you're going to tell them here, take a lot of vitamin D and a lot of calcium.
Yeah. So obviously it's something we need.
Yes.
Right? And also there's this muscle growth mindset. We wouldn't talk about it if there wasn't some relation to muscles.
Absolutely, and as it being similar to all the other steroid molecules, it is important for muscle growth. They find that if low levels of vitamin D cause oxidative stress in skeletal muscle tissue, and there is correlative data showing that more vitamin D helps muscle growth.
Right.
Don't know if it's directly linked.
Yeah.
But
definitely, I think. Notice that. More so it's the deficiency of it maybe slows the process more so than if you supplement a ton of vitamin D, it doesn't mean you're going to get jacked.
Right.
But you definitely want your levels normal, or else you're going to be kind of fighting an uphill battle. Right?
So normally there's a couple different ways to measure it, so be aware when I'm talking to you about this that we're going to talk about nanograms per milliliter. Some measurements are nanomoles per liter. So if you're looking at the numbers and they look a little weird to you, make sure that yours are nanograms per milliliter. So low levels are going to be below 20. You're going to be good above 30, and those up closer to 50, your health is generally, correlated data shows your health is improved.
Right. So it's interesting with everything going on today, right, with in the world, with COVID going on, there's been a lot of talk. I've heard talk about the correlation with vitamin D, and then the risk factor of contracting or not even contracting, but maybe how your body responds to it.
Absolutely. So I went diving in to research, and most of the early stuff I found was about vitamin D and coronavirus. And there's a lot of data coming in. Most of the really severe cases are people with lower than 20 nanograms per milliliter. Every time they checked, the 20 nanograms, it was lower than 20 nanograms per milliliter. The moderate cases were below 30. I don't think they had anyone come in with a 40 or 50, at all. You were asymptomatic otherwise.
Yeah, interesting.
Yes, and that doesn't mean it's not direct, but
there's something there to consider.
Absolutely.
So along the same lines, vitamin D, you can get it from foods, you can supplement, take a pill, but also
animal foods.
Okay.
pretty much the majority of animal products. If you are a meat eater, eggs, fish, especially high, but yes, animal products.
It's just the corona, or the carnivore guy.
Yeah.
Not the corona guy.
Yeah.
But the other way is sunlight, right?
That is an essential part of vitamin D. So there's a form of cholesterol, slightly different shaped, that's where it begins. And the only way to become cholecalciferol, that's the same stuff that you'll take in a vitamin D supplement. It's the cholecalciferol form of it. It turns into cholecalciferol with ultraviolet light hitting your skin. The chemical reaction, it needs ultraviolet light to do the process.
So you need sunlight.
Absolutely. So they're linking, I had a conception that because the warm weather kills off the coronavirus family, and that's why we see patterns that in the wintertime you're going to see more cases. That's what I thought. They say that pretty much any sunlight, though, if you're outdoors, the coronavirus is not going to get spread outdoors at all because any sunlight will kill it. So to me, that's an indication that I was mistaken. They say that the reason, the correlative data shows that the reason is because we have lower levels of vitamin D because we're indoors and it's cold, there's less light, and so we produce lower levels of vitamin D. So all the coronaviruses have a better chance of getting you sick at that time when you're having low levels of vitamin D.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing they quarantine us in our houses.
That's a lot of the people I went there. They're like, this is probably the wrong thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the people have been researching it, and they've shown, like, I didn't understand exactly the chain of reactions that happened, but yeah, they've said, like, direct sunlight, it won't survive in it, but I think maybe it's not a matter of surviving, it's a matter of contracting and spreading. And
absolutely. And there's another interesting note. So we were the data was coming in that black people were a lot more susceptible to coronavirus, and I was like, I wonder why. Is it diet related? Because we know the underlying issues, insulin resistance, diabetes, all these other things, that the heart disease and cancer, these are showing that you're going to be susceptible to severe case, and if you're going to get it, you're not going to be asymptomatic. But the problem is actually, black people are they're genetically advantaged to live under a lot of ultraviolet light. They can take it with all the melatonin, but they also don't produce as much vitamin D in other climates because the ultraviolet doesn't get through the melatonin. So perhaps the reason they are more susceptible is because they're going to produce less vitamin D normally.
interesting.
And of course, any darker skin, but the darker skin, the worse.
The more dark the skin, the
Right.
more correlation.
So the darker
Well,
skin you
vitamin-
have, the more likely I would suggest that you definitely need to take some vitamin D supplementation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are all the benefits? Like, why do we need vitamin D? You said it's good for your bones. Like, well, calcium, right? So which means
Right. Anything in your body that requires calcium, which bones for sure, phosphorus as well. That's what we know. That's the end of what we absolutely know.
Yeah.
Everything else is linkage. So we know there's more. We can see correlative data that there's more oxidative stress in the muscle tissue. Cytokines. Cytokines are. They're confusing. They're pro and anti-inflammatory molecules, but an overexpression of cytokines can cause inflammation in the body. With low amounts of vitamin D, we see more cytokines. So generally, overall, your health is better in a lot of correlative ways. So more vitamin D is better, generally,
right.
to a point.
And we can just check this with normal blood work. You can go just get your physical every year when you get your blood work done should have this on.
Yeah.
And it'll tell you if you're out of range, so it's just something to consider. Definitely check out.
We just looked at my last one. I'm at 48, which I'm feeling pretty good about.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. We weren't even thinking about COVID whenever we talked about doing this topic. And
Right.
said we've kind of
But everything
found
popped
more
up.
and more that there is correlation and there's something to it.
And I like when he asked me to, let's look into vitamin D, and I'm like, boring. Vitamins generally bore me. Like I said, eat whole foods, but there's a lot of interesting data out there, and it's a biochemistry thing. More research is needed, but
okay, so you had said animal, products, so meat, milk, right?
Yes.
Obviously vitamin D.
Yeah.
But so what if you're plant-based?
Supplementation for sure. There may be some plants with vitamin D. I don't know. I know it's easier to find in animal products, so eggs, milk, fish, salmon, definitely. If you're eating whole food, real food, you've got a better chance. If you're eating Totino's pizza bites every day, you're probably at a disadvantage.
Maybe at a disadvantage.
It's one of the vitamins that I would, I've got a bottle in my supplement cabinet. I stopped taking it for a while, thinking that just whole foods should do it. With that 48.
Yeah, you should be safe.
Right, but I may just supplement again. It is one of the fat-soluble vitamins, so there is a toxicity level because it can be stored in fat. But
it'll take a lot.
Yes, yeah, it's hard to do, and if you're an athlete, if you're in the gym all the time, you're probably going to have a lower body fat level, so not a lot of places to store it.
All right. Anything else we need to touch on with this?
Vitamin D, cholesterol, and anabolic steroids. We were talking about. So we talked about earlier. We were finding a link between, and there is some data showing that anabolic steroids can change your cholesterol levels negatively, right? Especially long-term abusers that are on high levels of anabolic steroids for a long time. They've seen those ratios go high LDL and low HDL, which is the wrong way to go.
Right.
So actually I could not find any data on anabolic steroids and vitamin D. So my question would be, if anybody out there takes blood work when they're taking anabolic steroids, I would love to get the data on the vitamin D, just so I'd have something. So if there's nothing out there, then nobody really has any data.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be official, but it would be more data than anyone else has right now.
Yeah, this is something where we could definitely use your help if you're willing to share your information, and it'd be completely anonymous. But let us know kind of maybe what you're taking, what steroids you're taking, what your vitamin D levels are, and if you're supplementing with vitamin D. If you're not supplementing, then let us know that. That way we know, okay, you're taking these steroids and your vitamin D levels are this, or you are supplementing and your vitamin D levels are this.
Because it's interesting, because these molecules are shaped very similarly. So if you're taking anabolic steroids, they are definitely shaped like the cholesterol molecules. So it causes an imbalance for some reason. And so I'm curious if it causes an imbalance of vitamin D, especially if it's a long-term user. But yeah, you can find me on Facebook Messenger if you don't want to comment on this, if you want to make it anonymous. Just like I said, I'd love to see the data.
Yeah. And I've known, just over the years, and I've never made a correlation or really given it a lot of thought, because I'll look over a lot of my clients' blood work and you'll see vitamin D deficiencies, and I assumed it was diet related, or just say you need a supplement. But one, I didn't know about a correlation with muscle growth, which is good to know, and also the correlation of potentially anabolics can potentially cause a deficiency or cause levels to go down.
I have a hypothesis that yes, it does. If it affects your cholesterol levels, my assumption is it throws off all of the pre-steroids some way. But I'd love to see.
Yeah, we'll look into that more and see if we can find more data on it.
Yeah.
And I'll be keeping an eye with my clients and myself. I'm due up for blood work, and that's kind of what triggered this whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was curious about the vitamin D, so awesome. If you guys have questions about it, or if you know more than we do, please tell us. There's a lot of information out there, and we're trying to learn just like a lot of you are. And if you'd like to share your blood work with us, same thing there. We'd love to know, so we can put some theories together.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for now. Until next time.
Don't forget rule number 1.